This section is about breathing. When you breathe, you inhale oxygen and exhale waste gases. Breathing is the process of ventilating the lungs with air. Inside the lungs, blood absorbs oxygen from the inhaled air and circulates it around the body. The lungs also absorb carbon dioxide from the blood in the lungs and exhale it into the air. But how do they do it? Here's a diagram of the lungs. This is how ventilation takes place. During inhalation or breathing in, the intercostal muscles move the ribcage upwards and outwards. The diaphragm contracts and becomes flatter and less dome-shaped. That increases the volume inside the thorax, that's the chest cavity, making the pressure inside lower than the atmospheric pressure outside. That makes air rush into the lungs. During exhalation or breathing out, the ribcage moves downwards and inwards. The diaphragm relaxes and becomes more dome-shaped. That decreases the volume inside the thorax, making the pressure inside higher than the pressure outside. That makes air rush out of the lungs. Air travels to and from the lungs along the trachea. The trachea divides in two branches, called the bronchi, which lead to the left and right lungs. Each bronchus divides again and again to give a mass of tiny tubes, called bronchioles. They all end in tiny air sacs, or alveoli. Let's look at that in real life, and follow the air into the lungs to see where it goes.
It's possible to look inside the lungs and airways to check for damage by putting a camera down through the nose.
But you shouldn't feel any pain at all. I'm just going inside the nose now, and it's a bit difficult to get a decent view to start with. As we just go inside there, we're going towards the back of the nose, and in a second we'll appear at the back of the nose. Here we are, going out of the back of the nose now, and as I explained, the back of the nose joins up with the back of the mouth. So I know exactly where we are on the screen now. We're looking at the back of your throat from the inside, and as we move down a bit, we'll begin to see the entrance to your voice box. This thing which is going horizontally across the screen is the epiglottis. It's like a little valve which flaps down over the voice box when we're swallowing, so that food goes down the gullet, the esophagus, into the stomach and doesn't go down into the windpipe. That's lovely. And through the vocal cords we go into the windpipe. Now the windpipe, as I can see it here, is reinforced with rings of cartilage. You can actually see those, in fact they're horseshoe-shaped rather than ring-shaped. Horseshoe-shaped cartilage. That's fine, and we've got an excellent view now. Just here we've got the division into your right lung and your left lung. And we can see how the tubes actually branch. Just now you can see it dividing and subdividing as we go look into all those little holes. That all looks absolutely fine. And I then go on down towards the bottom of your right lung. So I'm actually looking down here now. Right lung, I'm looking right down the bottom of your right lung now. And I can see these various tubes dividing and subdividing. It all looks beautifully normal. A nice non-smoker's lung.
Make sure you know how to label all these parts, in particular the trachea or windpipe, the bronchus, the bronchioles, the alveoli or air sacs, and the actual mechanisms of breathing. This diagram is also on the GCSE Bitesize Biology website. But what exactly happens inside the alveoli in the lungs? As the air enters the alveolar air sacs, oxygen diffuses through the thin walls into the circulating blood and is carried off around the body. But that's not the only gas exchange that's happening. Blood returning from the body is high in carbon dioxide. That diffuses the other way, from the blood and into the air sacs, and is then excreted from the lungs when you breathe out. It's important to remember that both these gas exchanges happen at the same time. So the main function of the lungs is the exchange of gases, absorbing oxygen and excreting carbon dioxide. Both these processes take place in the alveoli, or air sacs, which are richly supplied with blood. That's the end of the section on human breathing.